I never had the up and down spikes people talk about while they were losing weight. I lost 162 pounds. 120 of it was in 10 months.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching our videos. If you'd like to support us some more, you can explore our homemade natural skincare products at purelytallow.com. Thank you so much for supporting my small business. Hey everybody, welcome to the Carnivore Revolution. I'm Serena, and my friend today is Susan Boykin, and Susan just has an amazing story of recovery and weight loss, and it is honestly an honor and a privilege to have you on my show today.
Well, thank you. I am so honored too. This is great for me.
I'm so glad that we get to share your story and teach people, somebody who needs to hear how carnivore healed you and fixed
Yeah.
you and helped you. So let's start there. Let's start with where you came from and how you ended up here.
Where I came from was just from childhood, a past of disordered eating. And I'm 62. So that's a lot of disordered decades of eating, of binging and purging and crazy diets and starvation and food addiction that was just I don't know that I ever even heard the word food sober until I heard it, I
Mhm.
think, from Keto Mary the first time,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "That's what I had for decades." It makes so
Mhm.
much more sense. I was the person who could my husband could eat anything,
Mhm.
and he could moderate, and, of course, I never knew there was a thing such as moderation either, and so he would buy himself like a pack of cookies, have 2, put them away. Well, I they were open, so I'm like, "Well, somebody's gotta eat the rest of them." He might have come back for a week. So I'd eat them, and then they'd be gone when he'd go to get 2 more days
Mhm.
later, and I'm like, "Oh, you were coming back for those?" So I learned I need to always have a replacement bag so I can finish his, replace it with a new bag. He wouldn't know. I mean, food addiction had just had me by the throat.
Mhm.
And every action and behavior that I had from that, um, it just took me down just a slippery slope of just disorder, diet, frustration, really just stealing my life from me until it stole my health from me. And so, most people know, um, my story kind of begins with carnivore, with the death of my husband. He had been very sick. I was his caretaker. It was really an awful, awful time that left me when he passed away very unanchored. I
Mhm.
just felt like I had done what I needed to do in taking care of him, and I felt like I had no life left. And I didn't want to. I just really was in despair. I was in depression. I wasn't able to even care for myself or even be in the mental space where I could care for myself. Depression had just taken over after that time of caretaking, and I was suffering from some PTSD. I was feeling noise would bother me. Crowds would bother me. So I became more and more isolated, more and more secluded. And yet, when you're going through the ordeal of settling estates, you have to go and do things. Business
Mhm.
continues, and bills have to be paid, and things have to be seen to. And I was not in the mental state for it. And so I knew something was terribly wrong when I was just kind of starting to shut down mentally, physically. And grief just had me too. I just could not come out of that grief fog. And I didn't see the point in living anymore. I had married at 18. He was my life. What do you do now? And that was kind of my everyday, what do I do now? My son was grown and gone, and I'm like, "I'm done." Life really had lost any purpose for me. And so, I was just kinda in despair and I getting unhealthier and unhealthier in mind and body. And then one day, I just kind of, thanks to my sister who had health issues and said that she wanted to go keto, and I knew I was getting worse and worse, and I said, "Well, I'll do that with you. I'll do that with you." And of course, this all was right after I'd just been laying probably on my couch for a month or 2 or more,
Mhm.
praying to die, just praying to die, and I meant it with my heart. I don't wanna live. I don't wanna breathe. I don't wanna get up. I don't wanna leave my house. And so when my sister threw out keto, it was kinda like, "Oh, um, well, I'll do that." And prior to that, I'm a Christian. I had prayed along
Mhm.
with dying, and I just knew that's not the will of God for me. And I did finally say, I don't want to live this way. I don't want to live this way. And I don't want my son to take care of me the way we took care of my husband because he moved back home from up north to help me. And I said, I don't want that for him. And I know everybody's come to understand I'm the one that God said I have a plan for that.
Mhm.
And so it came really out of that. And my journey started with those words. I have a plan for that. And yet I didn't know what the plan was. And so then when my sister pretty much the next week was talking about going keto, and I said, well, I can do that. I can do that with you. It's easier with a friend. It's easier with somebody with you. I'll do that. And so then she fell and broke, 3 bones in her back, and so she couldn't continue keto, and so I did. I kept going. 5 months of keto, had great success, had great weight loss initially. The time I was my starting weight on keto was 270, so, I lost weight right away, and in 5 months, I think I'd already dropped 60, 70 pounds on keto. But I knew, I was still struggling on keto quite a bit because there's so many keto like or the standard American diet type foods
Mm.
sold as keto foods that are you're still told you can have all that you want of keto treats, and there's a
Yeah.
way to make any food keto food or any food keto friendly, let's say. And those things were driving me crazy because I did not know. I was still being driven by addiction, and keto was not touching the addiction, which I've come to learn you cannot moderate an addiction.
Mhm.
You can't camouflage an addiction. You can't take a healthy food that you may be allowed and say, "Well, I can now have as much of this as I want." I still could not do that. It's very easy for me even now on carnivore to overeat fat and overeat
Mhm.
protein, and so I even have to be watchful that about my emotions
Mhm.
driving me to eat because I've had to learn if your cravings and temptations are being fueled by your emotions and by your feelings, food is not the answer. Go somewhere else. Do not go into your kitchen. Do not go to the grocery store. So I've had to learn new coping mechanisms, but it started with understanding you have a food addiction. And so, and looking back all my life, I've seen, oh, I've had this forever. Why didn't somebody tell me this decades ago? And so from there, I just watched one day scrolling through YouTube like we do, looking at all the keto people and trying to learn more and more. And then I came across Dr. Kim Berry,
Mhm.
and he was talking about carnivore, and he was doing a 70-day, I think a 75-day challenge he was talking about. And I'm like, that is radical. And I just knew in my heart, yeah, that's what you're doing. That's what you're going to do next. And that's where you're going to find healing. And what keto did not bring to you, carnivore will. And so I started right away. I started on it was February 1st, 2 years ago. So it's almost been 2 full years. February 1st will be 2 years. And so I started and I went in just completely committed and completely strict. And I kind of found out in the first 3 weeks, I had some issues with things like bacon and eggs
Mhm.
and pork. And so I pretty much started lion diet right away. I just didn't
Mhm.
know at the time that's what it was.
Yeah.
I just knew I did best on that. And for about 3 weeks, I had just a horrible time adjusting. From keto to carnivore was hard for me for 3 weeks, but after the 3 weeks, it is like light came in. It is like my brain turned on. It was like, temptations and urges to self-destruct had just been turned off. Those switches had just been turned off. Those kind of things for unhealthy things, what it wasn't an issue anymore. It's like somebody flipped a switch. And so I just absolutely embraced carnivore because of how I started to feel. I was not losing weight on carnivore the way that I was on keto. It had slowed way down where keto, I could lose 17, 15 pounds in a month. On carnivore, I'd be lucky if it was 2 pounds a month in the
Mhm.
beginning. And that's when I learned that it's primarily a healing protocol. And boy, did I have so much to heal. I had a whole page of ailments that were physical, mental, and emotional. And I mean, they were just being healed kind of one by one by one. And I recently read Gary Taub's book, Why We Get Fat. And
Mhm.
he said something in there about you don't go on a ketogenic or carnivore diet um, hope to get healthy. What it does is correct your unhealthiness. You don't go on it to lose weight. What it does is bring you to the correct weight. It
Mhm.
corrects things, it heals things. And that to me is the power of carnivore. And that's what I've experienced. So that when critics come at me, as they do, about, this can't be healthy. It isn't healthy. And I'm like, well, that's your belief. But my experience is I've never had greater physical health, mental health, emotional health. And, because life happens and we need to be healthy to meet it in a healthy way. And if great nutrition through carnivore gives you that, that's my message. Let's just all get healthy.
Yeah, and the idea that food is for nutrients. That's what it's
Yeah.
for. Food is for
Yes.
nutrients. It's a way for us to stay alive. It's a way for us to be healthy. We're either feeding disease or fighting it. And so, if you sit down and you look at the actual nutrients in the food that you're eating now versus the food that other people want you to eat to be healthy, if other people sat down and actually looked and compared those things, they would see clearly without a
Yeah.
doubt, without you don't even need rose-colored glasses. Without
Yeah.
a doubt, you can see that the carnivore foods are the healthiest. They are nutrition powerhouses when you look at the difference between a ribeye and kale or a ribeye and blueberries. There just is no comparison.
Yeah.
No
And of
comparison.
course, I did all of the healthy things. I did the kale smoothies and all the, other things because, in all those decades of disordered eating, of course, you would have periods of time where, "Okay, I'm gonna get healthy. I'm gonna get healthy." And, I couldn't sustain that because have you ever lived on kale smoothies? I mean, the thought of doing that for a lifetime is terrifying, but I can think about living the rest of my life having a ribeye every day or having, well, that pretty much is my go-to is ribeye, but I can think about having meat every day for the rest of my life, and that doesn't bother me at all because I've learn to associate this is healthy, this is nutrition, this is what my body needs. I'm feeding my body. I'm not feeding, disordered eating. I'm not feeding disordered feelings. I'm not feeding emotions at all. I'll deal with those a different way. But food is for me to be healthy and stay that way and to stay strong for the rest of my days because
Yeah.
it looks like I'm going to have some days ahead of me now.
Yeah, that's right. And when you look at, like you said, other people believe, you say to people, well, you believe those things are healthy. We all believed that those things were healthy. We believed in the lean meats and vegetables, and we believed in those things for the wrong reason. They were presented to us as fact when it was very,
Yeah.
very far from fact. And that is a really hard thing to get your mindset on and change that. I even still have a hard time. When I'm, like, recommending foods for my kids, and, like, I always find it running through the back of my head about, oh, have some chicken breast, or like I always find that in the back of my head, like, oh, you should eat a big salad. And I'm not doing those things, but in my head, when I'm like telling my kids what they should eat for lunch, because they're not carnivores, when I'm telling my kids what they should eat for lunch, it's still hard for me. And it'll be 3 years in May, and it's still hard for me to wrap my mind around how I'm eating. And I have a hard time like always recommending this for people, I don't really believe that every person needs to be a carnivore. I think everybody should be a carnivore for a while and eliminate everything so you can notice how you feel. You can notice your food addictions and your carb addictions and your sugar addictions, and you can see how it feels. And then some people can add things back in and be fine. I am not one of those people.
Not either. I am not either. I mean, I have watched people, use even carnivore products like protein powders and the things they make with them. I have to be really careful even Rebecca Heischman,
Yes.
watching her make those brownies with that protein powder and the and the things she's making, I'm like, I know for me, what works for me are boundaries. And through carnivore, I have learned very well my boundaries. And I know what there are even some things that carnivores can have that I cannot. Like, I cannot have spices. I will react to it. I have to be really careful. It's pretty much just salt. I have to be really careful with things like that, even tea, coffee. I can't even tell you what coffee does to me.
Mm.
So I really had to eliminate all the plants. And I know plenty of carnivores, they have their coffee, and that's great. They have their seasonings, and that's great. I can't. My boundaries are just really, really, really close
Mhm.
around me, and I don't know if it's because, 50 years of just horrible trauma to my body, what I
Yeah.
did to it through so many terrible practices. It is a miracle I'm alive when I stop and think about it, that I just had done so much damage that now I have to just be really, really strict. And periodically, I will try to add something back in, and it takes a day or two of going, no. And so I have been able to add maybe the last year a lot of salmon, some
Mhm.
sardines, lamb. I found that I have really craving for lamb a lot, and I never ever liked lamb before, but I find that really nourishing to me. I still have to be careful with eggs, chicken, and pork. I can now have them every now and then. I can't have them often or for days on end. But I've also learned that when I have something like that that upsets me a little bit, I go right back to beef for a few days at a time, and all of that corrects. So I just really have to be strict on
Mhm.
carnivore. But I have found for me that's the most healing. Other people can add other things, and I think that's wonderful. I think carnivore works for everybody, but it's the carnivore that works for you that works.
That's
I
right.
mean, you have to kind of find your own way, and that's one of the things I have found because I had such gastro issues. I had horrible IBS. I had my gallbladder removed years and years and years ago, and I've always struggled before then and after
Mhm.
then. And so, everybody who does write me or who asks for help, so just if you'll just give me a formula, if you'll just
Yeah.
give me breakfast, lunch, dinner, the meals, the macros, the calories, I will do whatever it is. And I'm like, but you do not have my biology, my unique DNA, my past body traumas. It's not going to work the same for you. I eat 3,700 calories a day, which
Right.
every other carnivore tells me, and that's too much. And I'm
Mhm.
like, well, no, 6,000 is too much for me. 3,700 is fine for me. It's what I do. It's what I feel best at.
Mhm.
If I go below it, I lose sleep. I'm not able to sleep at night really well. And so I've had to learn what the process is for me, and I've had to learn to trust the process. And so, even when it's not like I haven't had a plateau. I had a 6-month plateau. And it's not like, this whole time has been linear. I've had I have found maintenance more difficult, actually. I never had the up and down spikes people talk about while they were losing weight. I lost 162 pounds. 120 of it was in 10 months. And it just was a straight shot down. It was not the up and down like a lot of people have. But maintenance, um, after my body had healed, finding that level ground of stability where I felt the best day to day, it's been a little bit of an experiment. And I have had a lot of ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs, because my body's trying to just stabilize.
Mm.
I've healed. I have reached the weight that I feel great at, or that my body has just kind of decided on. And so just reaching that point of, okay, this is it. This is it. I'm no longer losing weight. I'm no longer healing 20 different health issues. So just finding that place of stability at this place of maintenance has been probably the biggest eye-opening of what carnivore really does. Because in the process of it, while you're losing weight, you're really just looking at that scale, and you really are just going, this is working, this is great. But then you get to the dream number that we all think we have, and you're like, yeah, I've made it. Well, the next morning is kind of like, well, now what? Now what? And there has not been a whole lot of help in the now what phase. It's getting you there, but the now what is kind of like lacking. And that's where I found you have to individualize carnivore for yourself in that phase, because that's going to look different for
Mhm.
each person. So I've been able to add a few more things in, but still no plant matter. I have tried with the coffee. I've tried with the dairy. I can't have dairy. And you know what? That's okay, because I've been able to add the seafood. I've been able to add the lamb. So, we are not suffering over here.
No, one of the things I think is the neatest about carnivore as an elimination diet is that as you add things back in, you can see how those foods actually affect you, and that can help you make decisions, for the rest
Mhm.
of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a big
It really
difference.
does.
Yeah. Do you have any
Yeah.
book recommendations for people? I know you mentioned Gary Taub's book. Are there any other ones that you recommend to people?
Well, I really like that one. I've read them all, of
Mhm.
course. I love Judy Cho's books. She's got a new one. I don't Is it pre-released or has it been released? But she's got a new one. But The Carnivore Cure was really good. When I was first starting out, that might have been one of the first books I read that I found the most helpful was Carnivore Cure. And of course, is it Ben Bickman wrote Why We Get Sick, I think.
Yes, such a good book.
That one was awesome. Um, I'm trying to think. Um, Kim Berry's books are always good.
Yeah.
But those were the basics
Mhm.
books that I started with. I was introduced through YouTube. I can't remember who had her as a guest on their channel, but Dr. Joan Iflin. And I mean, she speaks so well on the addictive
Mhm.
brain. And one of the eye opening things for me, I know that early on when I would have pork, or I'd have pork belly in particular, I couldn't stop eating it. It was like candy to me. It was like an addictive thing, and I'm like, every carnivore I listen to has pork belly. They all endorse pork belly. Why can I not control this? And she was one of the first ones I heard talk about how that sugar addictive part of your brain is can be transferred into a
Yes.
fat addiction,
Mhm.
because they're side by side in the brain. And so that sugar addiction could just move over to the fat addictive side, and you can just
Mhm.
transfer those feelings into that. And I'm like, and as soon as I heard it, I knew it. And
Yeah.
so, I knew if I didn't have problems with other fats, but I had problem with that fat
Mm.
for the same reason I stayed away from bacon fat. So I just eliminated it is all I did. And after about 6 to 8 months, I added it back in and I didn't have that problem.
That's amazing.
So it's really interesting to understand the mind body connection. And you need to identify, am I a moderator? Am I am I an abstainer? Am I better off just saying no? It's
Mhm.
just a no for me, never. And I'm in a family of abstainers. I mean, I was the only one that was like I am. I mean, moderate. They could moderate. They
Mhm.
could have my sister and brother-in-law to this day, my whole family, in fact, they can put a dessert in front of them. They can have, and it's a tiny little dessert, and they'll have 1 or 2 bites, and they just push the plate away, and I'm like, "Are you
Never.
kidding? Are you
Never.
kidding me? What planet did you come from? You must be adopted,
Yeah.
or I am." So I never fit in there. I'm like, "If you opened a package, you've gotta finish that
Yeah.
package. I
Absolutely.
don't even understand your ability to push that away or have a bite of something," and so I was in a family of people like that, and I'm like, "Oh, no.
Yeah.
This doesn't work." So, and even on carnivore, I mean, I've learned too, just to wait on those hunger signals. My hunger signals and hunger hormones were so damaged from all the
Mhm.
dieting, all the things I did to force dieting. I mean,
Mhm.
I took, drugs and diet pills and laxatives and starvation. I did it all, and so I damaged hunger signals and hormones, and so to be healed at that hormonal level also was key to
Mhm.
this being as successful as it was, and to pay attention to there's more going on. There's
Mhm.
just more going on than what I ever really realized. And so carnivore kinda helps clear the mind of that, and you do have to start with a mindset of just, "I'm gonna give this the time necessary to have success. If it fails, well, then I've tried, but I'm gonna give it the time and let me see what it can do for me." And so, I just went into it with that attitude, and it was amazing coming from such a place of grief where I
Mhm.
was at the time and not wanting to live and so depressed
Mhm.
to have that fog just clear out of my mind so I could think clearly, and that helped tremendously. And so it does help you. Does it cure an addictive brain? I don't know that it has for me, but it's made me aware
Yeah.
of my addictive brain, and it's made me aware of addictive tendencies, and it's made me aware of, are you truly physically hungry? Are you emotionally hungry for something else? And
Mhm.
so just clearing that up in my mind has helped addictive tendencies tremendously.
Sorry, I had it muted because my dog was barking. Could you hear her?
I
Can you hear
could
her?
not. I
You
could
can't hear her
not.
now? Okay. Oh, good. It's not interfering then. Okay. All right, Susan, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you. And I just think you have such great information for people. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
You can find me on Instagram at susan.t.boykin, and, that's the best place,
Okay.
actually. I'm more active on Instagram than anywhere else, but
Okay.
or you can check me out on your channel.
That's right. And on Kelly's channel, you've been several places. Your story is just
Kelly's channel.
amazing. Yeah.
Kelly's channel, yes. Oh, happy birthday to Kelly Hogan
Oh,
today. It's
yeah.
Kelly
Oh,
Hogan's
yeah.
birthday today.
Yep. Today's Kelly's birthday. Yeah. She's the best. She's so
Yeah,
supportive and so encouraging of everybody. So, yeah, Kelly's pretty amazing.
yeah, and you are
Absolutely.
too.
Thank you. Thank you. I try. I have big shoes to fill, I feel like. But thank you.
We
Okay.
all do our part.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think this was really great.
Thanks.
And we'll see you next time here on the Carnivore Revolution.